And away we go. Welcome to the pickup meeting. This could have been an email, but I'm glad it's not.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely.
How's it going, Brody?
It's going great.
Yeah.
I just get so excited every time we record one of these. I feel like when I watch the video of myself, I have the same silly smile when we come on, but it's because it's still a lot of fun.
Well, and you know, it's one of these things that this has become the highlight of our week. I hope it's the highlight of the listeners' weeks, but it's the highlight of our week. And so even if they don't love it, you're still listening and we love it.
Yes.
That's the most important thing. This couldn't have been an email. How would you get this much energy into an email? Take that, Chat GPT.
Yeah, charm and charisma, all of the things. A lot of follically challenged jokes. I mean, it's great.
It is a lot. When we were at the Administrators Institute, we were follically challenged brothers with several participants and our fellow faculty member, Greg Mason. And I think people really thought that there was a bald issue happening within the male faculty, you know, like.
No, we've been thinking about topics. Maybe we should talk about this. Like you're fully shaved, right?
Yeah, I really started to embrace the Brody brochures look several years ago. I thought, well, if he can pull it off, I can. And I don't know that I do it as well as you, but I'm sure trying.
When did you start doing it?
I think the real buzzing probably in the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, 3 or 4 years. It hasn't been that long. But it got to a point where it's like, I really don't like how my 7 head looks. And so I was just going to embrace a different approach and went with it. And I kind of like it a lot.
Are you using a razor now? Or do you do a soft?
I don't remember what it's called. It's not the, I don't remember what it's called, but it's electric. So it definitely works. You're awesome. Using razor, right?
Yeah, I don't use a razor. I kind of shear with but I don't have a soft one. I need to get a soft one. I've heard they're great.
That's the word, shear. Yep, I do that.
And I've been shaving my head since 1994. I used to have to explain that my head was shaved, not bald. I don't have to worry about that anymore.
See, in 1994, I had hair.
I know. So I still had hair then too. I remember the first time I did it was over Thanksgiving break, and I went home and it was my parents' 25th wedding anniversary. And my dad looked at me and he just shook his head. No.
Yeah, I don't think that my folks really enjoy the look because they're like, you do have hair. And I'm like, do I? Not as much as I need anymore.
Yeah, my beard never comes in as well as you either, right? And I don't have to take care of it. Your beard always looks good.
I do love my beard game. Listen, I'm at a point where every once in a while I want to shave the beard, and I will say my wife loses her mind about that. She says, do not shave the beard. But if I shave the beard, all of a sudden, instead of being 45, I would be 32. You know?
When I shave my beard, I look a lot younger too. As long as I don't let the sides of my hair grow big, then I look like an absent-minded professor or something like that.
Yeah.
With my smart glasses on.
With you're again sporting the smart glasses for our audio audience. Hey, so listen, in another random conversation of things, lately I've been enjoying going out and shopping more often. And so I'm curious, like, are you an online shopper or an in-person shopper?
Well, I love me a good mall. Like, I'm one of these, like, when the mall dies, I'm going to be sad. And a lot of malls are dying. And so I do enjoy some of that in-person shopping. And some of the things that I buy now, like, for example, records, like nothing beats going to a record store and finding the thing that you're looking for, or kind of scavenging for something that's maybe a little bit lower price than you think it would be, or something that you don't have. Like, that's a lot of fun for me. I haven't done that as much with shoes. I know we were going to talk about shoes too.
Yeah.
There are some things that I'd rather buy online because I usually can get a better price. But with records, brick and mortar, and then nothing wrong with going to a mall or hitting a street with a ton of great shops. I kind of love all of it.
I feel like I've bought less online, and online shopping to me got way too heavy there for a little bit, that it was like online shopping is Amazon shopping.
Yeah.
And they're not a sponsor of this show. So at this moment, kiss off, Amazon.
Yes.
And so same thing on the annual Gatlinburg trip that I do every fall with fraternity brothers from college. Like Thursday has become go to the outlets in Gatlinburg Day.
Oh, so fun. That would be so fun to me.
So great. And I will say, having slimmed down a little and lost a few pounds, shopping's a lot more fun too, because you can find things that fit you. And so that's been a nice thing. But I do feel like I enjoy shopping more now than maybe ever before in life. And that feels weird.
Yeah. Shoe shopping is always really fun. And I have some shoes that I really love. I'm a big Allbirds guy, which is kind of this work, leisure, sneaker kind of company. And I'm wearing Allbirds all the time. I love them. But there aren't very many brick and mortar Allbirds, so you have to kind of order directly from them. And so usually I'm just buying a ton of those shoes because I can get them pretty cheap too, which is awesome.
And I don't know what those are. Like I have recently, and we were together, recently. And so one of the things I loved is that I drove there. And so I just brought a ton of shoes.
Yes.
And every day you were like, those are great shoes, right? Like you were really fired up about my shoes. And I was like, I'm loving this, but I've really switched to wearing a lot of Cole Haans. And so there are outlets and shops for Cole Haan in the area. And I've probably spent some money there here recently. And I'm loving the Cole Haan look.
Yeah. COVID ruined a lot of things for me, like ties and dress jackets.
Ooh, here's
dress shoes. And so Allbirds are kind of sneakery, but they do look good enough to wear to work now.
All right, here's a question. In the last 5 years, over or under 10, the number of times you've worn a tie? I think mine's well under.
Yeah, maybe me too.
I think mine's probably in the 4, 5, 6 range in the last 5 years. And prior to COVID, it was every day.
Yes, I did not wear a tie to my dad's funeral.
Wow, I don't think I even knew that.
That was kind of in solidarity because my dad didn't really like ties, but that gives you kind of an idea of my thoughts about ties. I mean, growing up, I wore a tie for 4 straight years every day from the age of 15 until I graduated from high school at 18. We had to wear ties every day. Ugh, yuck.
Wow. There's no good transition from ties that are terrible to wear to things that keep you motivated. And you talk about this, right? That you have things that are your go-to to come back to as professional development and expertise. And we talked about this a little bit and I thought about it. There are certain things that I really enjoy, and we've talked about some of these before on the show.
Yes.
I enjoy the Charlie Nutt video and the Terrell Strayhorn video.
There you go.
From Nakata in Minnesota, and I think 2014. And now I'm pulling out dates like I'm you, because you have the mind of I don't know, you're a genius. Do not capture that moment, Matt Mark, and do not do it. And so like those are motivating. And I think for the advising profession, those are really powerful keynotes to listen to. I aspire to provide a keynote that is at that level someday, because those are just some transformational experiences. What are things on your list that hit that way?
I mean, I really love the David Foster Wallace "This Is Water" commencement speech from like 2005, I think. And David Foster Wallace was this great novelist, and he talks about choosing and kind of getting out of the rat race. It's just a great motivator. It's a little bit depressing. I mean, kind of a trigger warning. The guy does end up committing suicide, right? They've made a movie about him, but he really hits home to these graduates in 2005, what it's going to be like to kind of live in everyday work mode and how hard it is to kind of get out of the mundane and really choose to be happy or be positive. And it's a real motivating speech in my mind. I showed Steve Jobs' speech to my first year experience class every time that I taught that class on day one. That's a pretty cool speech. Alan Watts is a philosopher who does this little 3-minute vignette that kind of talks about doing what you love. And those are 3 that I was thinking about the other day that I use a lot and come back to a lot, just to kind of keep me grounded and motivated in some of the really important things.
I do a lot of conversation about storytelling, and I would also say that one of them that hits for me is one that you shared with me, right? That is, I think his name's Matthew Dix. That sounds right to me. On
the spoon story.
The power of a spoon. And if you have time and just Google the podcast, The Power of a Spoon, How to Become a Master Storyteller, anything Matthew Dix does that I've listened to, it is maybe from a storytelling standpoint, one of the best things you can hear, and really does talk about how to be an effective presenter, how to be an effective storyteller, and also how to capture moments that really do matter to your listener and maybe matter less to the minutia that you typically add to a story.
Yeah. Yeah, his book is really great too, right? If you're trying to improve your storytelling techniques, that's a great book to pick up for sure.
Yeah. Well, listen, we made it through our guest. Yeah, we did pretty well. We made it through some stuff, which is great. But now I think it's time for us to welcome our guests today. Jerel Benton is joining us. Welcome, Jerel. Jerel is the Assistant Provost for Student Success at Radford. Brings a wealth of experience in student success and retention. Previously served at Texas A&M Corpus Christi. But audience, let me admit this. I've got some age on Jerel here because our connection goes back almost 20 years ago when Jerel was a student worker in the Learning Center at the Academic Advising and Retention Center at Western Kentucky University. And now he's running universities and running student success all over the country. Jerel, welcome to the show.
Hey, Kevin. Hey, Brody. Also learn from the best, right?
But
yeah, no. But yeah, those were good times though.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wish I can just go back and enjoy life the way it was then, but you know how that goes.
It did seem simpler back then, didn't it?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we're so glad to have you on, and listen, Radford University. For our audience that doesn't know a little bit about it, maybe tell us a little bit about your work that you're doing with Radford and what student success looks like on your campus.
Yeah, so Radford is this gem in Southwest Virginia. Like we do have a little school up the road from us, about 20 minutes, called Virginia Tech, but they're little. But we are we are the regional institution in Southwest Virginia. Like you won't find any other public institution south of us. You get into Tennessee, North Carolina area, and then you'll have to work up north a little bit further into Central Virginia to find another regional public institution. So we are proud Highlanders, a very cool institution, and the population that we serve in the Appalachian region, right? And access institution, 44% of our students are first gen. So we're doing some really cool work. One of the things we pride ourselves on is being a high touch institution with our students. And so I get to be, lucky to be here and be able to serve our students. I've been here for about 1 year and 9 months, so it feels like 5. It really feels like 5, but it's been a 1 year and 9 months, and it's been a good transition.
That's great, Jerel. You were talking about simpler times, and I always wonder, like from an origin story perspective, how is it possible that from a student worker in the Learning Center at WKU, you found your passion in higher education? What do you miss most about that time? And what did you learn there that still shapes your work today?
And it's okay for you to say Kevin Thomas is what you miss most. I mean, it is okay for you just to admit it, Jerel.
I do miss you, Kevin. No, simpler times. So when I was, funny story, and this is all about like how career paths, shape over time. When I was working in AARC, the Academic Advising and Retention Center, I was a nursing student. So I studied nursing, graduated with a nursing degree, And for me to say that those were simpler times, nursing school was hard.
Yeah,
It was
sure.
so hard, but it still feels like simpler times. Like I think for me, now with, wife and 3 kids, you know, a lot of times I really just care for myself, get up, go to class, do my work, right? But I think one of the things that I really miss, WKU had phenomenal people that were there supporting us as
Mhm.
students. Kevin being one of them, Jessica Staten, Dr.
Yeah.
Oh,
Bonagero, like
yeah.
all those folks were critical and kind of in my formation, not only as a professional, but seeing higher education as an option, right? Nobody goes in thinking like, oh, I want to work at a university, right?
Right.
Particularly if you're not looking towards like a faculty position, like going to get a doctorate degree to lecture and profess, right, all day. But seeing some of the other operations and I think a lot of it for me, had to do with people that saw you and cared for you, right? And I was like, I need to be able to do that and give that back to somebody else too. That was one of the reasons why I got into nursing is like I wanted
Yeah.
to help, right? But didn't see higher education as a helping field. And it was through those experiences that really kind of garnered my interest and developed into a passion working with my peers, supporting my peers that kind of led to me wanting to do this work. And so I think the people is probably one of the biggest aspects because I feel like I had really good people. And there were other people that I didn't name. There were other people that were looking out for me, like Peggy Crow.
Yeah.
I
He's
I
fantastic.
was a first gen low income student. Actually, I'm shocked that WKU let me in, but I got in and I did my work and it got to a point like I had like a 3.7, 3.8 GPA and Peggy was like, "How come you don't have any scholarships?" I was like, "I don't know." I was like, "I don't even know if I did the application." And then that next semester I had a scholarship on my account, right? So it was that really, there were simpler times, simpler times.
That's
Wow,
right.
Jerel, that has me kind of thinking. I mean, that has me thinking about the people in my life that kind of led me to this space. It's a great reminder that there were people that were involved in our successes early on that certainly framed the way we think about the work today. So thanks for sharing that. That was great.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have a wide variety of listeners on the show, but I would say that we have a lot of people that work in the advising profession that are tuning in, and so your answer there kind of reminded me of the path that kind of veers in a different way, that advisors sometimes have to deal with. Can you talk a little bit about that whole like progression of you're going to be a nurse, right? You're going to go into this field, and this isn't like I was a comm major and I ended up in higher ed. Like being a nurse is pretty specific there. Like as that was happening, like do you remember the conversations with your loved ones and your friends and instead of going this path, I'm going to do this and what were some of the give and take moments there, because I got to think that you use that in your own experience with your team and your staff and the students you work with now.
Yeah, and it goes back to something you were all talking about. Like everybody has this story, right? You have your story. Your story is being formed throughout your lifetime and probably even beyond your lifetime, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And I just remember, I think one of the things that's a part of my story that connects with my work and how I engage with staff and, all of that is for me, a big driver is my background, as I mentioned, coming from a low income. I went to school because I wanted to make money and make a better situation for myself.
Sure.
So I honestly started out as a kinesiology major in my first semester, going back to advising, right? I got into a biomechanics course that was in the bottom floor of the football field, and I had all these athletes around me, and that that course was hard. I was like, I got to see in that course, to be honest with you. I am not, this ain't it. But at the end of the day, when I decided, I was like, maybe I need to explore a little bit more. The next thing that I thought about was I still need to make money. And people told me that if you are a nurse, you're going to make good money. What they failed to mention on the front end is it's passion work, right? It is
Yeah.
Yeah.
passion work. And it's not that I'm not a compassionate person or anything of that nature. I just didn't want to channel my passion in that way, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until that senior year I had conversations with those that were close to me. Dr. Bonagero was actually one of those that I had that conversation with. Like, I told her, I want to do what you do.
Oh,
And she kind of looked at me crazy and she was like, but you can make good money as a nurse. But I was like, I'm inspired by that work. And I think that's how we got to be able to flip that to our students, right? Is what's driving you to this major, this career field, whatever it may be, and being able to have those open and reflective conversations that really prompt students to think. As we know, I would imagine everyone on this video here and this podcast, part of what we do is teaching. It's not in a formal sense, teaching and coaching, right? And I was fortunate enough to have those folks. And so as we're having conversations with our teams, it's like there's sometimes you're teaching, there's sometimes that you're going to be coaching. And part of that coaching is really having those reflective conversations that help students to really think critically about like what that trajectory looks like, right? And it's okay that, yeah, you may do that for a few years, but it's all the other skills that you develop. Like my critical thinking skills that I learned from nursing, sharp, right? And I'm using those to the benefit in the work that I'm doing. So a lot of that is also transferable.
yeah. Jerel, I would be remiss if I didn't point this out to Brody. And he have I had conversations about mentorship and the life that we lead and how we get here. But hearing you today, it's a reminder that the both of us are here because Dr. Ellen Bonagro inspired a mentorship in us that brought us to a point that our careers went a different path. And,
Mhm.
and I know she's listened to an episode before because she said, if you haven't listened to the podcast Smartless, you could slow down just a little bit, right? And so she's still providing guidance and mentorship in the work that's there.
That's awesome.
And so I'm gonna have to be sure to make sure that she checks out this episode when it comes out because truly our careers are where they are and our paths have gone this way because she was a big part of that. And so thank you for sharing that. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know you've written about creating environments where respect and empathy coexist. What role does empathy play in student success work, Jerel?
Oh, I think it's everything, right? I think it's everything. And I think part of it, I think I wrote about this the other day, uh, debunking the myth that empathy is softness, right? I think I mentioned like empathy is really awareness and to be able to raise that question around what might I be missing, and thinking about that and with the person that is sitting in front of you, what might I be missing? And I think that leads to a lot of curiosity, right? I think it leads to getting to know people's story and who they are as a person, so that our judgments and or actions toward those individuals are informed in a way that's going to be supportive and also connected, right? Um, but you can, I think we can understand someone's challenge and still hold people to a standard, right? I think that's kind of what
Yeah.
empathy, I think that's kind of what empathy is, right? So I think it's critical to the work that we do, mainly because we're dealing with humans. At the end of the day, we are serving humans that are mapping out a path and a life for them. So I think empathy is like the one of the utmost critical things that we have to have as higher ed professionals, particularly those that are providing direct services to students.
Yeah, it doesn't have to mean a lack of accountability, right? It can
Right.
just be about
Right.
framing that
Yep.
accountability in the context of the individual person.
Yep. Absolutely.
I like that you've recently branched into your writings and I've seen some on LinkedIn show up and for our audience, if you haven't checked out some of these that Jerel's done on LinkedIn, I'm sure he would gladly accept the readers and the follows on his profile. But recently you wrote about when consensus slows leadership. And I thought, like this is a bold statement. Tell us what got you to that point where consensus building becomes a barrier rather than a strength, and like kind of how you got to that point.
Yeah, so oftentimes when I'm writing these things, they're from lived experiences.
Yeah,
So,
I figured they might be.
right, they are lived experiences. Some of them are delayed, right? And I'm gonna put it out there into the world, and then some of them are more immediate. But and so this one came from a particular project that I'm working on, and some of it is influenced by the culture of the institutions that we work at too. So for me, in this case, that's influenced. So consensus, I think I've come to a point in my life, everybody's not going to agree on everything, right? And sometimes in particular environments, if we are looking for that silver bullet that everybody's going to agree on, um, we're going to be waiting for a long time,
A
right?
very long time,
And
yeah.
and so, for instance, for example, with this project, our goal is to do a implementation, right? And this implementation, one of the things I'm telling my team is like, no implementation is going to be perfect. No design is going to be perfect, but our goal is to get something in a good state that is implementable that we can build and scale up on. And so trying to frame that, particularly in this situation, like where consensus can slow leadership, I think we have to come to an agreement that in some ways we just got to keep the train moving,
Yeah.
but doing it in a respectful way that we're still walking through this project together, aligned and and agreed upon with most things. But if we're looking to get everyone on board, I've kind of learned over my professional career we're not gonna do that. So but there's a way that we can handle that, with the constituencies that we're involved in. I think feedback is good, right? You take in the feedback, use the things that are constructive, and share how we use that feedback to kind of keep us moving forward without stalling what we're trying to do. So that particularly when I wrote that particular reflection, right? I had something on my mind that I needed to get off my mind.
We've all been there in that
Yeah.
time frame of those things that we need to get out there, and it's like, well, how do I phrase this without pissing somebody off today?
Yeah.
Right? Like, 'cause you want to get it out there. You need to get it shared a little bit. It made me think back to, and I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, that Charlie Nutt keynote where he
Mhm.
says, and Brody and I have talked about this recently, you're more likely to change the course of history than you are a history course.
Yeah.
That's what happens on a college campus a lot, right? Where it's just
Absolutely.
like everything feels so slow to change and so slow to progress. And while that may have evolved a little bit in our current political environment, where things are moving faster than ever before, and maybe sometimes a little too fast, I think that consensus building sometimes does slow some of the leadership efforts.
And
Yeah.
and it's just
Sorry, go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Jerel.
I was gonna
No,
say fatigue sets in. Fatigue sets
Yeah.
in. Like you're gonna get fatigued one way or another. You're gonna get fatigued trying to build the consensus, or you're gonna get fatigued just from just kind of talking in loops and things of that nature. So it's just like you get to a point you're tired, and it's like we have some momentum. How do we capitalize off that momentum? But go ahead, Brody.
no, I was just saying, Kevin and I were talking about this the other day. When you hit those obstacles, I think framing any kind of change or consensus building in how those changes are going to improve the student experience is another critical piece of
Hmm.
those discussions, right? I mean, we do sometimes have to trudge along, and we do sometimes have to have spirited discussions about ways in which the institution has to move forward. But at the end of the day, I think the best way to deal with those issues is to frame any kind of initiative or discussion that we're having in
Hmm.
improving the student experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you just have to navigate it with intentionality. I think you have to be very intentional. And again, I go back to the feedback loops, but the feedback loops are not there for you to continue to like spin, right? But really think about, all right, what can we take back and then how do we continue the momentum without that fatigue sitting in?
Yeah. You've worked at a lot of different types of institutions, Jerel. I'm wondering, do you think there are universal truths about student success, or is it all context dependent?
I think there are some universal. I think one of the biggest universal truths is relationships matter. And I go back to like we are human beings, and we're all in community with one another, and relationships are a key. Um, I think of importance, right? Not only just on the student side, but collegiality,
Mm,
collaboration. When
yeah.
you're sitting in a student success role, there are some days that feel isolating because naturally you are collaborating with almost the entire campus because everyone sees student success as their role, and you want that, right? But in turn sometimes it gets reflected back to you, like you are the student success person, so no, I'm coming to you for the answers, right? And so I think the relationships to navigate change management, to influence others that are not necessarily in your particular area or portfolio. So there's a lot of like negotiation and compromise and building those relationships that are so critical. So I think one of the biggest aspects is relationship matters. Um, and then two is like culture of care, regardless of the type of institution, can
Yeah.
go a long way, right? And that's from how we treat our students, how we communicate with our students, how we communicate with each other, the respect that is, all the things that come around with culture of care can. I think it's Tinto's theory. Like a lot of
Yeah.
it is about
Yes.
having the right conditions. And so how do we set the right conditions for our students, faculty, and staff uh, matters to the outcomes that we desire. So those are probably the two big things for me that I think are universal regardless of the institution type.
I love that, Jerel. I love that you bring Tinto into the fold. And Kevin and I talk a lot about that culture of care, right? It has to move beyond individual care too, right? It
Hmm.
has to be
Hmm.
it has to be an entire collective
Absolutely.
within your institution.
Absolutely.
And Jerel was part of Brody when we talk about culture care, and I remember those early years that we would have been connected, Jerel, at WKU, where Dr. Ellen Bonaguro had the idea of like instilling the culture of care on the campus
Hmm.
community. And so we made door hangers like that were for the campus. And on the front of it, there was a fancy little design and it said WKU, a culture of care. And on the back of it, it had resources
Hmm.
for all the offices that faculty and staff should connect with
Wow.
and utilize. And then the day before classes began, Jerel was probably part of this group running around campus, putting all of these door hangers on all of
On the
these
doors.
offices of faculty and staff members throughout the entire campus of WKU. I mean, it's a 25,000 student campus at that time.
Right.
And our folks are hitting every door in every building to make sure that the faculty and staff knew what the resources were. You talk about shaping a culture and making sure that people were aware of that. Like that's what Jerel was part of. That's some of your foundation, Jerel.
And listen, that was hard work. Do not misjudge that hill. Getting up to Cherry Hall was a milestone. Walking. Oftentimes I took the shuttle, but
Yeah.
it's definitely a feat.
There's a reason why it's hill toppers. There's definitely a
Absolutely.
hill.
Yeah, I did those door hanger things, but for Domino's. As much
That's
free pizza and bottled Coke as you could get. 15 years old, cash at the end of the day.
Yep. I bet there was
Jerel,
lessons in that too.
Oh, there were.
that's right. That's right. That's right. And some delicious food too.
Yeah.
Jerel, along the way, I think over the last, your career, man, you've done some things that you're proud of and excited about. Like, what are those 2 or 3 things that you look at and you say, these have been transformative to my experience. These have been transformative to the students I serve. What are those things that for you stand out as those moments or those efforts that you've done?
Yeah. So I started my career in higher ed at Morehead State University in Morehead, Kentucky
Yeah.
foothills of the Appalachian. I like Appalachian, it seems like.
Yeah.
Foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. And I think one of the things that I'm proud of there very early on in my career is the ability to build. I would like a lot of my career started in equity, diversity, inclusion work. So I was the minority retention coordinator, but working not just me, but with my colleagues from across campus to build a culture specifically for our Black and African American students, and that was our primary underrepresented group there. And these were students that were coming from Louisville, Kentucky, and Dayton, Ohio, like from metropolitan cities into rural Appalachian, Eastern Kentucky, and reason why I say I'm most proud of that, yeah, it did translate into like retention numbers, and we were able to really celebrate some things there. But I think there was just a lot of things that you could not find in a data point that was really, I think, impactful for our students there. And honestly, from the connection standpoint, I probably still have the most connections with those students early
Mm.
on in my
Yeah.
career. Actually, one of them is my sister-in-law now. One of my
Wow.
students is my sister-in-law. Crazy story, but that's how it worked out, and we still connect and talk about those times and reflect on. And it wasn't just me, it was just a community of folks that really just gave up their time and energy to make sure that we were wrapping our arms around the students. So I really, that's one of the things. And then at Texas A&M University Corpus Christi, that was by far the best professional experience I've ever had because I got to work for my mentor, and I'll shout her out, Dr. Clarinda Phillips. She's now the provost at Missouri State University.
Oh,
Phenomenal human being. I left Wisconsin to go work for her, and she is a true student success provost. She's an academic as well, but she really cared and not only cared, but make sure that student success was integrated in the fabric of academic affairs, but the campus as well. And just some of the work that we were able to do there around our completion initiative and creating a data informed campus community. And I just learned so much there. And I think it had such a significant impact. Again, data tells you one thing, but the things that data cannot tell you, but you feel and it's based on how people speak about you and others working for her and building that culture, I think was by far another great experience for me. So shout out to her. She is like she is on the A team of provost across the country, and look her up. She's doing good work even at Missouri State. I've actually got to do some work for her there too on a cause like a consultation basis, but just a phenomenal person. And if I could work for her again, I would do it 10 times over. Because she's pretty awesome.
I love that. That's fantastic. And I mean, you talk about this, it's that balance that we're all trying to find. You're right, right? Like the data is only one part of it. And the data leads us to where we can see the impacts that we need to have. But
Hmm.
then that's when that relational approach, those connections, that care, that belief come in that isn't in the data number, but the data may get us there. And so that's why
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
balance is so critical. And so I appreciate you sharing that perspective for sure.
yeah. So, Jerel, you talked about kind of some of the really impactful places and positions you've had where you've made a difference. Thinking about somebody moving into student success leadership, what advice would you give someone kind of moving into those roles for the first time?
Don't say don't do it. Don't do it. No, I'm kidding. It's a great field. It is. That can't be the answer.
I mean, it is a very great feel. I find it super rewarding. I think one of the things, and I still have to remind myself of this is, coming into a student success role, people just think you know it all. And so be okay with not having all the answers, right? One of the things that I particularly over the last few years, that I've grown fond of is really we got to bring each other along for the journey. So I really love, like, take your time. Work groups are amazing. I think the more smart people that you could put around you, the better off you're gonna be. Don't feel like you got to do it all yourself. So I was actually just looking at my whiteboard. I got 5 projects going on right now that I'm either leading or co-leading with, but I have a team of people, and that's what it's gonna take to really make impact, to meet the goals that you have set out, either for you personally or for the institution. It takes a collective effort, and you have to be a super highly collaborative and collegial person. And so leaning into relationship building, honestly, when I first got here at Radford, there's normal, like a lot of new administration, so you deal with all those things. But I think it's any place that you go, whether new administration or not, is like, spend some time building trust, right? And I look at trust, and actually, there's a book called The Thin Book of Trust. Great book. I don't know if you all have read it before,
Might
but
have to check it out.
there's 4 dimensions of trust that they talk about. One is care, right? The other is around reliability. The other is competence, and then the other is sincerity.
Mm.
And working through all 4 of those dimensions is like how you build trust with folks. But at the same time, the book teaches you, like, don't have complete distrust in folks because they have made a mistake in one area. Like, address that one area. Like, I still trust you're competent, I trust you're sincere and care, but you missed this deadline. uh so
Right,
let's talk about the reliability, right? And so
right.
building that trust, and then how you live out that trust as a student success professional, I think is going to take you a long way, because it takes a lot of people to make that work in this field happen. So that would be my advice, just kind of moving forward. And that's some of the principles I try to live by as well.
And I think you're doing that work. And if I can, just for a minute, about a year ago, I had the opportunity, and yes, this is a self brag statement here. I was keynoting at Virginia Tech at their advising summit, and at that point, Jerel, I think you probably been on your campus for 4 or 5 months, maybe a little
Yeah.
longer than that,
Yep.
not
Yep.
too
Yep.
long. And had an opportunity to interact with some of your staff, even 4 or 5 months in, and they were already using those words and phrases about your leadership
Mm.
skills and style. And so I think it speaks a lot to what you do. That you're, just after a quick amount of time, you were having that impact, and they were singing your praises 4 or 5 months in. And so, kudos to you and your work. Um,
Yeah, no, they're good people. I'm fortunate to have a really good team, and that conference is coming up in a couple weeks. So,
Yeah, our
yeah.
our good friend Brody, Tara Warden is keynoting this year, and
Oh,
Tara is student success master. I mean, she's just unbelievable at it, and so it'll be great for those in attendance. Darrell, I don't know if you're going this year, but Tara is unbelievable. You have to tell her we said hi.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's my plan. That's my plan, is to make it over. It's 20 minutes down the road. So,
That's right. And I didn't know that either. You brought up the 20 minutes down the road thing. For whatever reason, in my mind that was a bigger distance. The
no,
thing I want
we're
to
right
move.
there.
Yeah, right there. The thing I want to move to, and this might get a little iffy on this subject, because Jerel, if you haven't listened to certain episodes, Brody will be quick to inform you that IU won the national championship,
Yeah, I
and none
know.
of
I
us care
listened
at
to it.
all. Yeah,
I listened to
brutal. It's
it.
brutal. And so I know this. You create Kentucky Wildcat fan reaction content, and I think specifically about basketball, because football is a little brutal, but specifically about basketball. Can you tell us how that started? What made you decide to turn it into something that you're doing nowadays?
Yeah, well, getting ready to turn 40 next month, and I'm hoping it's not a midlife crisis. But um, no, it's I'm trying to find other things to do with my time. So I was like, I always have a lot of thoughts about Kentucky sports, particularly basketball and football. And you know, my family has no interest in having those conversations with me. So I'm like, let me build a community of folks that
Yeah.
we can engage with, right? And so I kind of, and this is fairly new. It's been over the last 2 or 3 months that I've been putting out content. And so literally it is fan reactions, like no scripts, no media, no any of that, right? It's just me and my thoughts and my opinions regarding sports. I do want to remind Brody, we did beat them in basketball this year.
I know, and I knew you were going to go there.
Yeah. Even in our down year, right? We're claiming it's a down year, but we're kind of on a heater right now. So
yeah, IU's kind of on a heater right now too, in basketball, not just football. In basketball, they're playing better too.
We won't talk about football, so we're gonna leave that.
I'd like to talk about football, Jerel. No, Jerel, I was thinking about this. I have to tell this quick story. You know, my dad was at the IU Kentucky game, the watch shot game, and that was the only time he ever watched a game in Assembly Hall. And I'm like, what a game to be present at.
Yeah.
And the other thing that makes me angry about Kentucky is you ruined the Final Four in '93. I mean, we had a chance where we could have played against each other, and you let Leitner hit the shot.
Like, yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
You're killing me, man. You're killing me.
You're killing Kentucky fans here, Brody. You're killing Kentucky fans.
Is there I know there's like a 30 for 30 that has Leitner, and is there like a documentary that kind of looks at like Kentucky's perspective of that day, that shot?
No, but interestingly enough, from the LSU Kentucky basketball game this year, when we made the last second shot off like a Leitner throw, Rick Pitino came out and was like, "See, I told you it doesn't matter if you put somebody on the ball or not, right? So
it can happen to anybody."
That's right. Well, keep the content coming, Jerel. That's a fun project for you.
Yeah.
So let me ask this question, because as a fellow girl dad, right? So you have 3 girls.
Yep.
How do they shape how you're spending your free time, and what are they into right now, Jerel?
So I spend my free time in whatever way they want me to spend it, and that is different for each one. My youngest thinks we're all her toys. So when it's time to play, it's time to play, no matter who that is, and that could look a lot of different ways, right?
Sure.
My middle just likes quality time, even if she's also I'm an introvert, she's an introvert, right? So we could just be sitting next to each other, and she's just drawing and just showing me some of the things that she's got on. So we like to do that. And then my oldest is the typical like pleaser child, right? So she does try to take interest in some of the things but I know she's just kind of faking it. So she'd be like, "Dad, is there a game today?" I was like, "Yeah, there's a game." "Well, I'm gonna come down and watch it with you." And then she's just sitting there on her phone, but at the same time she's present. They stay pretty active in school, which keeps us active, mainly in like academic related clubs and other like more social organizations. So they keep us busy, and we're a busy family. So it gets free time is limited.
Yeah. Keep enjoying it, man. It's great.
I know. My 13-year-old's turning 14. She'll be in high school next year. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm starting to feel that pressure. Like I need to capitalize on every moment that I have.
That's right. That's right. All right. On the last fun question, before we get to the lightning round, I'm going to give you this one. If you could go to any Kentucky game, past, present, or future, what would it be and why?
Oh, Kevin, that's a great question.
And listen, I married into the BBN, so I know some of these. So this is a tough one.
Well, we already talked about the Kentucky Duke 93 game. I don't want to use that one.
That was 92, actually.
92.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to the 2012 national championship.
Yeah, that's a good one. Anthony Davis.
I'm a big Anthony Davis fan. I feel like his career is starting to fade a little bit, so I want to relive those glory years. And so I think I'm gonna go with that one. I think I'm gonna go with that national championship game, and it was also an exciting game too. So
yeah, love it. All right, let's do some lightning round.
Lightning round.
You want me to go first?
Yeah. Well, listen, some of these are Kentucky based, and so we got to switch. So, superpower you'd actually use in real life.
Omnipotence, knowing everything.
Oh, let's go.
That's a really great answer.
True,
I mean, Kevin thinks he has that superpower already, so it's good.
Kevin knows he does. That's right. Yes, correct statement.
Jerel, what's one food you could eat every day?
Pizza. I'm a pizza fanatic. If I can give a second one, it would be Japanese hibachi.
Oh, okay.
Every day.
Yeah. What's something that's on your bucket list?
I want to travel to Ghana. I really don't have any justifiable reason. I mean, I think just maybe even some spiritual connections that exist there. And I want that to be my first out of country trip. I haven't traveled out of the country yet, but.
All right. Very good.
Yeah.
What would surprise people most about you, Jerel?
Probably that I am a hardcore introvert and I like quiet time. My job forces me to be an ambivert, so I do what I got to do, but it is exhausting. So alone time is important for me. Yeah.
This is a good feed into that. What is your one way to unwind or your favorite way to unwind? Let's go there after a stressful week, especially as an introvert.
Favorite way to unwind? That's tough, Kevin, because I try to just go to my room and lay in the bed, but all three of my girls end up in my room. So I think sometimes it may just be, I guess it's still unwinding. We're in that space together, no TVs, no phones, no distractions, just having conversation, and it's light and easy on the brain. So yeah, I'm gonna go with that.
I love it.
Do you have a guilty pleasure TV show besides watching game film, besides watching Kentucky basketball?
Not really.
Ooh, that's interesting in itself.
It is. I am a random shopper of shows. So some days, if I get that alone time, I'm just going through Netflix and be like, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Let me see what that is. So I think it just varies. I'm a Netflix shopper and see what's out there.
That's great. Love that.
And Netflix loves that. You're their
I bet.
consumer. That's right. All right, final one I've gotten, and we'll end with Kentucky because it's a good way to end. The best Kentucky basketball moment you've witnessed live.
I've witnessed live would probably be, I'm gonna go with the 96 championship game against Syracuse. And I think that was like my first real like Kentucky pivotal moment, particularly on the positive end, and that I can recollect. Like the 96 team was my favorite. And the last game, our last game against Tennessee, they brung back the denim uniforms, which was worn during the 96. So that was a good time. So I'm gonna go with that particular game there, that 96 championship game.
Love it. Love it.
Great.
Well, Jerel, you've been fantastic. Thank you for joining us. I am so glad 20 years later we got a chance to reconnect. And even if it's over a podcast, it'll have to be at a conference or an institute or something here coming up soon. But thank you.
Yeah, and I've heard about the Administrator Institute listening to you all's podcast. I may have to put that one on the list too.
We love it. We'll see you in Charlotte next year for it then. Let's go.
It was great to meet you, Jerel. Absolutely.
Likewise, Brody. Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now I'm going to say it, right? As my son would say, Brody would say it. That was fantastic.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that was great.
I always love meeting new people. I always love it when we bring folks on that were important parts of our lives, one of our lives, and then we get a chance to kind of see why they're on the show and what they bring to the table. And Jerel really hit it out of the park. He's fantastic.
It's one of these things that's interesting. You reflect back on moments of your career and you can still see yourself in certain spaces. And I just remember walking in the front door of ARC and walking around the left, and you go into this tutoring area that used to be there, and you'd see tutors just sitting at the desk studying and doing things. And I can remember seeing Jerel in those rooms, working so hard as a nursing student, but also working so hard helping other students succeed. And then, years after I left WKU, to see his ascension professionally into the roles that he's gotten to. He mentioned the mentorship and the care and the belief and the things that he's really aspired to. And that was so much of what we were doing back in the day as a very special office and very special crew. When, he mentioned Dr. Ellen Bonaguro, Dr. Jessica Staten, myself. There were many others that were there working at that time that it was really just wonderful to have him back today and reminisce a bit, but also hear about the great things he's doing.
Yeah, he got me thinking about my time at Indiana University and the names that he mentioned, right? And you just talked about there. For me, I think about Melanie Payne and Tim Stockton, a couple of my first hall directors. My best man, Lee Clark, who was a graduate assistant at that time in the CSPA program. Michael Dean, who I reconnected with at the Nakata Region 5 conference. These were all folks that were like, Brody, you can help college students as a part of your career. If you didn't know that, like you should really think about this. You're really good at it, and we've really enjoyed having you be a part of our team. Like, give that a go. And those folks were so critical to my choosing this field and this profession. It's just a great reminder that there are people that have propped us up to get to the point where we are.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Hey, so one of the things we thought we'd wrap up with today is a top 3 of you said trinkets. I went with office items.
Yeah,
that kind of means something to us. And so what did you have in mind? You want me to go? You want to go?
I'll go first because you went first the last time when we had a guest. I have this calendar. I'll even pull it out that I've had since like 1995, my first year as a hall director. And Drake Martin, who at that time was the assistant director of residence education at the University of Northern Iowa, gave that to each of the hall directors. Drake was such a great human, and he passed away tragically a few years ago in a mountain climbing accident. And I remember getting that call, and I have that on my desk. I've had it on my desk my entire career, and I'll read those quotes, and it just reminds me of the kind of care that he gave to each one of the hall directors there. I also have a corner desk thing that holds all of these items from folks at each of the institutions where I've worked. So if I've left a campus and there's been a going away party for me, sometimes folks have given me items or things. Sometimes even here at Illinois State, when people have welcomed me, there's some things that folks have done that have been really nice for me. And I keep all of those things in one place as just a constant reminder that people matter, right? That those relationships were important. And so I will kind of dig into that and look at that. And then, I have a picture of a lot of posters with music. And there's one that's John Lennon's Imagine, with the lyrics from John Lennon's Imagine, which is, I think, one of the greatest songs of all time. I'm kind of a pacifist at heart, and it's such a great message. So those are the 3 that I'm picking. How about you?
For our visual audience that's ever watched on YouTube, this is hard, I think, for Brody and I both, because we have a lot in our office. I think people typically get overwhelmed by my office. Even I put up a different thing on the table each episode. And even that today is, my grandparents, the grandpa and grandma Wink, used to go to auctions and estate sales and collect dice, and he would put them into a container. And so that's some of the dice that are in that container.
That's awesome.
But like the 3 that I picked out today, and I'm going to bring them up here onto the screen, is one, some lapel pins. I have about 500 or 600 lapel pins, and these just happen to be Vikings lapel pins because they were easier to take off the wall and bring out. But I love looking at those and seeing like where my journey's been, where I've gotten those, who may have given those to me that mean a lot. You just gave me one from Hoover Dam recently.
Yeah.
That I like a lot. And so that's one of them. I would say that I also, in the lapel pin theme, have a lapel pin that's a butterfly. It's pretty small here, but that's a butterfly that I keep right in front of me. It actually doesn't go on the wall. It stays right in front of me. That is symbolic of my daughter, Ella Grace. And so as a girl dad of a much different variety, I keep that near and dear to my heart. And then the last one is a gift that I just got recently from Brittany Bartlett Montgomery. That is the Kevin Thomas bobblehead.
Oh my God.
I know, right? And
That's
so if we're talking about trinkets, I feel like this trinket is pretty amazing. And every time I see it, it just makes me smile and so maybe bobble a little bit, right? But it's absolutely a fantastic trinket of the office. And here's the thing.
You're wearing a tie.
In that one, I am wearing a tie. You're right. That's like pre-COVID, Kevin. I would say that it was kind of foreseen because it's also a slimmer version that I've become, and I probably wasn't at that point. But we could have done a Cribs version of our offices and gone on and on about the things that are in here. But trinkets is definitely something that we excel in. So those are the three that I picked out today.
Oh, that's fun. I love sharing kind of our own personalities. Our offices should matter, right? I love going into folks' offices and seeing what they have up. That's for sure. Well, all right, folks, that's it for this edition of the Pickup Meeting. We hope your own meetings, formal or pickup style, are as meaningful and as fun as this one. Until next time, gang, do good and be nice.